wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? It is Tuesday, June 29th, 2021. The Monty Show is live on YouTube and on podcast. Simply open up a Google window and search the words The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y, The Monty Show. And as though it is a flowering bud of proprietorial greatness, yeah, I just said that. It will open up and you will see Monty Show on YouTube, on podcast, you name it, we're there. And by the way, hit subscribe and you could win this very Xbox Series S. Velocity architecture, velocity stuff, greatness.
Okay.
By the way, what the hell does velocity architecture on a video game mean?
It means something that's moving fast, I think.
Send your kid to coding school is what that means. We'll give it away at 1,500 subscribers. If you're here right now, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. All right, shall we go to work on this fine Tuesday morning? And of course, yes, we are going to celebrate Devin Booker pissing me off even more. I don't know. Do we start with the Jazz or do we start with Devin Booker? Because I'm pretty frustrated with Book right now. Mm-hmm. And you know that Book is my dude, right? I mean, we were cuddling last night, and I was saying to Book, no, I'm kidding. It was frustrating to watch the Phoenix Suns last night, and maybe that's the best way to put this, because I feel like Devin Booker is a guy right now that needs a moment. He needs that breakout moment where Devin Booker becomes the guy that the Phoenix Suns need him to be. And he's hitting threes and he's hitting the mid-range, and then he turns the ball over 3 straight trips. He makes bad decisions. He finally stays out of foul trouble, but then, gets frustrated and is barking at the officials, and his guy beats him back on defense. And I just ask myself, at what point, if you're Devin Booker, do you take that leap forward into superstardom, because you're never going to have a better chance than to do that now? And you're getting performances from guys around you. Now, yeah, did DeAndre Ayton catch the ball even one time last night? I don't believe he did. I think he bobbled or dropped every single ball that was thrown to him, and I want to choke him for it. But Jake, I think at some point, and I know that we've had this conversation on a pretty much daily basis on this show, Devin Booker has to, he has to bloom. He has to explode. He has to have that 50, 60-point game in the playoffs where he just launches himself onto another level.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now he's going through the growth process that every young, superstar, if you will, goes through, where you have to learn how not to get frustrated and play the game within the game, which is you have to understand when to go to the rack and get fouled. You got to understand when to just take over from a scoring perspective. Like these things that you're responsible for as a superstar, if you will. He's trying to learn these things. And I think last night, I thought that, Paul George did a great job winning the game within the game. He, once again, was playing the petty stuff. Him, Bev, all their guys just do this whole thing where they're either flopping or drawing fouls or like just doing certain little things here and there that frustrate the opposition and get them to make mental mistakes. And I think that's the thing that Book and the rest of the team need to clean up. And yeah, DeAndre Ayton, he's got to learn to catch the ball. I mean, again, he's seen so much growth this season. He's playing such good basketball, but when you don't catch the ball, like what good are you? Last night, Zubac doesn't play, and Ayton doesn't really have, a standout game. He just kind of has a pedestrian game, and that was really surprising to me. I don't know why they weren't featuring DeAndre Ayton more. Why wouldn't you let him just absolutely eat whoever they decide to put on him? Because you're going to get him in foul trouble. So overall, I felt like whether we're talking about Book or anybody else on the floor last night, I just didn't feel like they played a real quality game. And now the mistake you've made is you've given the Clippers hope, because now what's going to happen is you're going to go back to LA. The Clippers are believing they can beat you without Kawhi Leonard, without Zubac. And now you're going to have to, you don't want to go to a game 7. You don't want to do that, man. That is a mistake. In every way possible. That's a mistake. You should not be here. You should have won last night. You should be sitting at home or sitting wherever, enjoying, a drink and watching, the Bucks and the Hawks go at it. That's what you should be doing. But you played undisciplined basketball, so you're not. So we'll see what they do in Game 6 now. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, and I'm not saying by any means that the series is lost or that the Suns can't win the series, but something significant is going to have to change. And when I see Chris Paul never even look to pass late in the game, and he's just hawking up threes that never looked like they were going in, when you're getting phenomenal efforts out of, campaign and he's not in the game, I do think some of this conversation has to be about the decisions Monty Williams is making. Like, it was really surprising late in that game that Cameron Payne was not in there. And I look at another Cam Johnson.
Yeah, don't know where he went.
Where did Cam Johnson go? Why is Cam Payne not in the game when Devin Booker is turning the ball over repeatedly?
Yeah.
Why is, when you're down 10 and you need the 3 ball and Cam Johnson's been hitting that 3
perfect
out of the
night.
corner, why is he not in the game standing in the corner? Because the Clippers haven't figured out a way to stop him yet.
Yeah.
Wide
open look after wide open look for him.
How much blame do you put on Monty Williams for some of this?
I definitely think he bears a lot of the responsibility, but at the end of the day, I think that, again, we wouldn't have to talk about Monty Williams and his rotations if Book and CP3 and the rest of these guys, handled their business. I think that Cam Johnson has been reliable. He's made the shots he's been asked to make. He'll give you a couple drives to the bucket every night, and that's what he does. And then he decides when he needs to turn it up on defense. So I think he's doing his job, but he's just a role player. That's what he is for this team right now. And that's why I say at the end of the day, the ultimate responsibility does indeed fall on Devin Booker's shoulders, because, again, if he's not turning the ball over, if he's not playing reckless basketball, if he's winning the mental battle, we don't have to worry about, the Suns not winning Game 5. We don't have to worry about all these mistakes. But because he is turning it over and he's not playing smart basketball, and I really do think that this nose situation is really part of the issue. Like, I feel like he's trying to figure out if he wants to wear the mask or not wear the mask, and he got hit in the face last night and it really, really hurt. And so he's battling that. And I think it's a struggle for him. So, like I said, this is his first postseason. At some point, they were going to face adversity. They hadn't really faced adversity up until this series. So we'll see. That said, yes, Monty Williams needs to get this team back to who they are, which is playing pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton, moving the ball, and finding the corner 3 with Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson. When that happens, they are extremely difficult to beat. So that's what I'd be looking for in Game 6.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see your watch is talking to Jake. That's the only female talking to lately.
Dude, yeah, no. Don't get me started. No.
That's later in the show.
No.
I think that the Suns are still going to win this series. I think this is more probably a bump in the road. You were up 3-1, you lost, okay. The thing that's really encouraging to me about what I heard last night was, after the game, Monty Williams ripped his team for just showing up and not having that killer mentality, which, by the way, is a little shocking based on the fact that Chris Paul said, we haven't accomplished anything. A 3-1 lead, as I know all too well, is not a good enough lead. It's a little shocking that they just showed up. But on the flip side of that, you got to give Paul George and the Clippers some credit. Patrick Beverley continues to be a disruptor. Pat Bev continues to be a guy that, frankly, I don't think the Suns have figured out exactly how to deal with yet at this point. And I think that while they have learned to pick and roll and switch Patrick Beverley off of Devin Booker, I think whoever Patrick Beverley is guarding, he's creating havoc. He's blocking shots, he's getting rebounds, he's getting steals. Patrick Beverley's having a huge impact on this series. And I think we saw last night that with Ivica Zubats out of the lineup now, what looks like for the rest of the series, DeMarcus Cousins came in and dominated and played really well and shot the jumper well and went to the basket well and defended well. And all of this goes to say, I just saw a complete lack of intensity out of the Suns. And I saw a guy in Paul George, Jake, that I think was out there trying to prove a point.
No doubt about it. I mean, he was definitely trying to prove a point, and I think that Paul knows just as well as anybody else that his reputation is still in question in terms of his clutch gene and his ability to be that guy for the Clippers. And I think before Kawhi went out, I think there was a lot of conversation about the fact that this was Kawhi Leonard's team. But with Kawhi being out, I think I do think we have to give Paul a lot of credit. I mean, He's put up multiple 38, 40, 43-point performances with like 10 boards and some dimes. I mean, he's been playing really well, and I think he did send a message last night. That crossover. If you want to say he pushed Chris Paul or whatever when he knocked Chris Paul down, that was a complete legit play, and that was just him saying it's a man's game. I'm stronger than you, I'm bigger than you. Get off me. And I think that those kind of plays and that kind of mentality is why he is so lethal on the perimeter in the mid-range, because he's willing to battle you.
Yeah. Jordan Crabtree says, hey, yo, man, first in. Yes, you are. Good morning, Driftwood. Vision Gaming 2011. Hey, guys, not a great night last night. No, it wasn't. Gabe Ledley, Lope Soap, says, hey, yo, about last night.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. About last night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not good. Dario George says, cheers from Croatia. Hey, what's up? What a win for Croatia, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Playing some footy. Driftwood says, don't forget the drops today, Jake. Yeah. Okay, listen. I know that people like this show. Okay? People like this show. People were pissed yesterday that you just decided not to do your job. And, as a lazy millennial, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. But I think there were some people in the audience yesterday, Jake, who expected a higher level of performance, and frankly, you just didn't deliver. Okay. There you go. Gabe Ledley says this Suns team is most susceptible to bad losses when they, quote, think all they have to do is roll out the basketballs to win. Oh, man, that's a great point. Expecting home crowd energy with no Leonard or Zubats equaled awful basketball. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Spot on. Gabe Ledley. Red Heart Norvis says, hey, Monty, can you and Jake do an impression of Stephen A. and Mac's take on the Suns and Clippers?
Is that a real question?
Yeah. Who? I like Max Kellerman on boxing. I cannot stand Max Kellerman on anything else. Like that show, and I don't watch it. We have a TV that's hanging on our wall because we're pimps and players on the show.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh,
so we have what is that, a 60-inch TV hanging on the wall over there?
Yeah.
And it's just on in the background most of the day because my Yelpatory is also here. My gym is over there. Like we're in about a 5 square foot room. So like all of this stuff is right on top of us.
Can you measure it?
It's not 5 feet. Anyway, the point is, like we're in our palatial Monty Show studio compound.
Right.
And the TV's on in the background. And if I see Max Kellerman on TV, I have to go and kick my dogs because it just creates anger inside of me.
Wow.
What?
All right, where's the dogs at?
Yeah, No, I'm kidding. But if I see Max Kellerman on TV, I turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
really annoying. He really annoys me.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing I've been saying, which is all that show is, and all that show is for the Undisputed and First Take and all these shows.
Shannon.
Yeah, I mean they're shock jock radio shows where they literally just come up with ridiculous takes like Trae Young is better than Steph Curry in the postseason, and
it's soundbite. They're there to create sound bites.
Yeah, and I understand. I understand that has a use in today's media, and I'm sure ESPN does well with it. But it's not for me, dude.
I would agree with that. Is that necktie getting tight in Phoenix? James Knight says.
No.
He also says, Pat Bev, stop it, Monty. Hey, I maybe you just didn't watch the game because, that's right, Joe Ingles is out of the NBA playoffs. That was probably too much. But if you watch that game, there is no way to deny that Patrick Beverley's having a huge impact on this series.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Well, we've seen it throughout the series, right? I mean, he's been a pest with Book. I think to be honest with you, I think that's where Book's troubles kind of started in this series. You know, Beverley getting in his grill, constantly pesting him.
The breaking of his nose was on Patrick Beverley's forehead.
Yeah, so like I think, you know, Book has to so if we go back to when Kevin Durant was a Warrior, Patrick Beverley and Kevin Durant went head-to-head and battled, and
yes,
you know, KD got technicals, and it was this whole thing. And nobody was surprised because it's Pat Beverley, right? But my point is that Kevin Durant put Bev in his place. You know, that's where, I'm pretty sure that's where the famous "Don't you know who I am" line from Kevin Durant came from, when he was getting asked by the media about Beverley and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Don't you know who I am?" And then he turned it up, and he put Bev in his place. So, you know, I know that Devin Booker is not 6'10" and, you know, an insane, you know, person that way, but I think he's more than capable of handling Beverley, and that needs to happen. He needs to get over on Beverley. Once that happens, then I think the Suns can start kind of, you know, putting this team away. But I agree with everybody in the comments, dude. Like, you can't roll out on this Clippers team and think that they're just going to roll over, because that's never been who they are.
And again, I just say, for everybody who ripped Paul George, for everybody that, you know, talked about how, you know, you have a guy in Tyronn Lue that is whatever he thought was.
He only won rings because of LeBron. That's the narrative on Ty Lue.
He's made incredible adjustments in this series. I thought the way he changed their style against the Jazz was the true difference maker. Going zone, being aggressive, turning Marcus Morris loose. You know, really the pick and roll with, you know, the guards. I think the way they held fast against the Mavericks. Again, they're down 3-1. They had no reason to come to Phoenix and play hard, but what did they do? They came in here and won. And I think that speaks volumes about who Ty Lue and this LA Clipper team are, because they're not going to give up, and you're not going to easily beat this team. And I think there's something to be said about that. So I would not write this series off. I think the Suns are going to win it, and I think they probably close in Game 6, because I have to think at some point that you have to do more than be legendary on your shoe, because Kobe said that to you. You actually have to come out and do that.
Yeah.
And that's my call to Devin Booker. Step up, win the game for the Suns, and go on in the NBA Finals, because that's where this team should already be. And again, I think the finals start a week from tomorrow. You should be off. You should be off right now. You should be resting right now, and you're not. And if that's not a wake-up call, this flight back to LA today, if that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what other wake-up call there will be.
Completely agree.
You know, like,
completely agree.
Eric and Raleigh, actually using the name Eric and Raleigh, says the Monty Estate. Well, the palatial Monty Estate.
Palatial, right.
You know, let's be accurate about it.
Right.
Red Heart Norvis says the Jazz need a guy like Campazzo. I'm just going to stop reading right there.
Bro, stop. Stop.
Right? Look, Campazzo's one of those guys that isn't he like a folk hero?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's the guy that's going to hit big shot. He's, you know what Campazzo is? He's a better version of Matthew Dellavedova. That's what Campazzo is. He's an annoying, undersized player who makes big shots, you know, facilitates a little bit, and you're like, wow, like he'd have an impact on this Jazz team. When the reality is that he is a nice player for the Nuggets.
No, say it right. Campazzo's a nice little player.
Verticality. Right?
That was, how about Jeff Van Gundy last night?
Yeah, dude, verticality. Just saying.
Verticality, bro. Campazzo's a nice player. He's undersized. What the Jazz need is Mike Conley to stay healthy, because I still maintain that the Utah Jazz will make an effort to bring Mike Conley back.
Yeah, they will.
I think the percentages are on that side. The problem is you're probably going to wind up giving him a 2-year deal to do it, because other contenders will come and offer Mike Conley more money. And he is going to go the Gordon Hayward route. If you don't want to pay me, let me show you that somebody else will. And it's going to probably take, between $20 and $23 million ish to bring him back.
I want more.
Yeah, and Conley's going to get more. And that's why I said, if you really are the Utah Jazz and this is a new way of doing business at the Jazz, show some balls and let Mike Conley go.
Yeah.
Because my firm belief is that the Jazz don't have the flexibility to remake this roster right now, and I don't believe we'll be able to win a championship this coming, like next year. But a year from now, I think you're going to be having a very different conversation about this roster, and overpaying Mike Conley because you have some odd loyalty to him is not the way to go.
Yeah, it's a setback.
And my hope is that with the way that this front office is being remade, that they let Conley go. But I don't know that that's going to happen. Jamie SS Sniper Fox. Hello. One of your
fuck are you?
Yeah, one of your comments was already deleted by YouTube.
Oh,
so
we got.
I mean, I guess I could say welcome to the show, but
Hey, has there been a Grocock sighting today?
there's not been a Grocock sighting today.
Darn.
Jamie SS Sniper Fox says, no, we need guys like Giannis. Okay. James Knight says, Monty, come on, man. Don't go there with jingles. You're better than that. What? Yeah, I mean, he's not playing in the playoffs right now, right? I would say do not re-sign Conley. I don't think you should. I think they will. But, if I had to guess right now, when you look at the point guard market and you look at where Mike Conley is in his career, he has probably got a couple of seasons left, depending on where his heart lies, how long he wants to play. But he's a guy that could get $18 to $20 million per season if he's on the open market. And he's going to get that money from a contender. And those teams like the Knicks that this coming season, this next season, are going to be significantly better. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
The Knicks are not just going to sit here and bring back the status quo. I think we all know that. The Knicks are in a position to get better. I think a guy like Mike Conley is a really good fit for the Knicks. He's a veteran. They're probably not going to bring back Derrick Rose because of money. Again, Derrick Rose is going to be a guy that's in demand.
Although I do think with the Knicks specifically, let's assume that they do make the Dame deal and Damian Lillard goes to New York and is playing there. I think then, the priority, because Mike Conley's not a max player anymore. He's well past that. So, again, if we remember what we discussed yesterday, the Knicks have the ability to go and make the Dame deal and then sign one more max player and still be able to fill out their roster. So, they have a ton of money, and that allows them a ton of options and flexibility and guys that they can go and get. So, would he be a good fit there? Sure. But I think that the Knicks are saying, hey, look at that team in Brooklyn that's got 3 superstars that we're going to have to deal with if we want to go to the NBA Finals, and we need to match that kind of firepower, So I think their priority, at least to me, logically speaking, this is my opinion. Obviously, I don't know this for a fact, but I just think that they're going to be really aggressive with going and getting Dame, and then going and getting one more guy that is on that max level.
I think if you are the New York Knicks, I think this summer you go one max guy, and I think you bring back Derrick Rose. That's what I would do. I think that if you go and get a guy like Mike Conley, that's a pretty bold move. Derrick Rose is a very popular figure in New York.
Yeah.
He was a guy that a lot of people were pushing for 6th man of the year, which I think Jordan Clarkson rightly earned. But Derrick Rose is going to be a tough guy to replace in that Knick locker room if you bring somebody else in. And that's why I think you bring him back, culturally speaking. And I think you draft aggressively at point. And you have Derrick Rose mentor one of the top point guards in the draft, because the Knicks certainly have draft capital to spend here. But I agree with you. I actually think the Knicks have all the freedom in the world. It's just a matter of what they want to do.
Yes.
And how they want to go about leveraging that. And it's a great place to be. And frankly, I think as far as the Jazz go, I would let Conley go. If he gives you a discount, which it would be shocking because he'd be leaving a lot of money on the table, but if he goes $10 to $12 million, okay, great, let's talk about it.
Yes.
Oh, you'll come back on a 2-year deal where the second year's a team option? Okay, great, let's talk about it. You'll come back on a deal where, hey, if you make the All-Star team or if you make All-NBA or if you play 75 games, we guarantee your second year. Okay, great, let's talk about it. But my feeling is a year from now, when you're going into the 2022-2023 season, you really want to have that flexibility. You need that flexibility. If you're the Utah Jazz, I would be very reticent to bring back Mike Conley on any kind of deal. It's going to be very difficult. Casey Finlinson says this is a 7-game series, in my opinion, on the Clippers and Suns. Could be, but
it shouldn't be, though. That's what's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you really, if you're somebody in that Suns locker room, if you're either Chris Paul, if you're Devin Booker, certainly, and this goes 7, you've really screwed up. Like Game 6, you should come out on a mission and you should win that game.
Yes.
The Suns are a better team, and I think if Monty Williams is truly an elite coach, he's going to figure out why he didn't have Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Cameron Payne. I think there's a lot of this that's on Monty Williams.
And why were they not feeding DeAndre Ayton? I still don't get it.
Because DeAndre lacks intensity at times, and this is what we've talked about.
Yeah,
about DeAndre for 2 years now. I'm telling you, DeAndre Ayton has had a breakout playoff season. There's no doubt about that. He's one of the most improved players in this postseason. But he still doesn't catch the ball well. We saw that multiple times last night. We saw a situation where he just got beat back on defense by DeMarcus Cousins, where he wouldn't step in on DeMarcus Cousins, and Cousins winds up getting a layup out of it. Like, there's just a lack, especially on the defensive end. There is a lack of intensity.
Yep.
And when you bang with DeAndre Ayton, you're probably going to win that battle. And when you bang with intent, like guys like DeMarcus Cousins do, you're almost always going to win that battle.
Yeah.
And toughness and mentality is something that DeAndre Ayton's going to have to improve on, and it's very rare and it's very hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would keep an eye on that. Michael Goldman says Jazz probably don't need Conley if they go get Dame. I don't know how many more different ways I can describe this. And we should probably switch full force to the Jazz.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. I mean, we need to have the conversation again.
Give us a thumbs up if you're here watching this video, please. Subscribe if you have not subscribed. We're giving away this Xbox Series S that is sitting on the table in front of you. When we get to 1,500 subscribers, and we are just short of 1,200, so it's coming quick. On the Utah Jazz, there is an all-out effort on a couple of fronts, and I think we've been pretty good on the Jazz during the season, during the playoffs. And I think we certainly have been at the front of the news curve on the firing of Dennis Lindsey. There is no doubt now for everybody yesterday who was all upset with me because I said, and I probably got a dozen comments on this and a bunch of people DMing me and hitting me on Twitter and telling me I don't understand how beloved Dennis Lindsey is and the culture of the Jazz is we don't fire guys. Well, I got news for you. This isn't the culture of the Jazz anymore.
Yeah.
This is a new era of Jazz basketball. Dennis Lindsey was fired. There is no doubt about that. And we told you that there was some dissension on vision, player allocation. There was frustration. We told you all of this. Go back and watch a show from yesterday. We told you all of this on the show yesterday morning, that Quinn Snyder and Dennis Lindsey often were not on the same pages, rotationally speaking. The fact that Quinn Snyder does not like playing his young guys, and we saw that even when
Yes.
Don was injured.
Yes.
You were getting a little bit of Trent Forrest, a little bit of Mia Oni, but you weren't getting full-on 30-minute performances out of those guys. And I think that's what the divide was. As we've said, like Dennis Lindsey and Quinn Snyder were not on the same page. I don't think there's any question that the Rudy Gobert contract brought some dissension into this organization. And the complete overhaul of the front office, which is happening as we speak, and there is no doubt that Ryan Smith is putting his own stamp on this organization. As to what's happening now, I think there is real momentum towards diversity and hiring people of color to have significant roles on this club and in this front office. And I've heard a lot of names, like obviously a lot of people have said Shane Battier. Well, clearly there's a relationship between Dwayne Wade and Shane Battier from their time in Miami together.
Yep.
So that would not be surprising. But I do think that there is significant movement towards Danny Ainge being a real impactful voice in this front office. And I don't think it's going to be a full-time move. I tweeted out last night that Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge have the framework of a relationship where, hey, Danny Ainge is telling Ryan Smith, I need to prioritize my family and I need to be able to secure my long-term health, because he was 100% in on the Boston Celtics. And Danny Ainge voiced very clearly that his body took a beating during that time. Like, he did not mind his health. I think he felt some turbulence at home.
Yeah.
Because he was away. He is a guy that is Danny Ainge is LDS, and family always comes first. And I think Ryan Smith respects that. Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge have a relationship. I don't think there is a belief, and I don't think they have an agreement that Danny Ainge is going to come in here and run everything basketball-wise for the Jazz. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is Justin Zanuck is going to be at the top of that food chain, and I think they're going to bring in experienced guys. Danny Ainge is going to be one of those voices. Dwayne Wade is going to have significant input into what they're doing. And from everything that I'm told and everything I understand, they are looking for one more significant contributor to this front office, and they would like that to be, a person of color. They would like that to be somebody that's a minority, that has experience, that has been involved in front offices in the past, that can grow into a long-term, impactful role in this front office. Because the guy that they're really prioritizing is Donovan Mitchell. There's no doubt about that at this point, that the Utah Jazz are moving towards Donovan Mitchell and trying to keep him in Utah for the long term. And this goes much back to what we talked about with Damian Lillard in Portland. And Damian Lillard, I think, is really upset about what's going on in Portland.
As he should be.
This Chauncey Billups hire was done without his consent and was done without his input. And that's just not the way that you do things in the NBA. And I think that's why Ryan Smith and Donovan Mitchell have a very good relationship, and they communicate on a regular basis, because you have to be able to have input if you are going to be a superstar in this league. And to think that guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were not consulted before James Harden was brought in is crazy. I think if you are talking to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant about hiring Steve Nash, that conversation absolutely happened. Like, you look at these teams that are built, there's no way that the Golden State Warriors are going to make significant changes without talking to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? It doesn't. LeBron's got a significant voice. AD's got a significant voice in LA. Donovan Mitchell wants to be and should be heard when they make major changes. And I think there's no doubt that Donovan Mitchell signed off on Dennis Lindsey no longer being the head of basketball operations. And I think he welcomed that change.
Yeah, and I think the Clippers' loss in that series accentuated, all of the shortcomings and the disagreements and perspectives on the roster. Like, I think that again, as much of it wasn't actually on Rudy Gobert, he was just kind of the victim here. Like, the Terrence Mann corner three was more than just them losing that game. It was, to me, screaming, "Hey, this roster is short. Like, you've done a bad job with this roster. Like, yes, this roster was good enough to win you a bunch of games in the regular season, but when it mattered most, you came up short." And I think when we start to hear rumblings and rumors and storylines about how Dennis Lindsey had a vision, and that vision was not shared by everybody else in the front office, I just think that the way this team went out really accelerated and kind of like magnified that whole situation. And so, yeah, I think, when Ryan Smith and D Wade and all these guys are looking at what's going on in Portland and frankly what's gone on in Green Bay and what was going on in Seattle, and all these different situations where you have star athletes in the front office beefing. They're like, we're not doing that. Ryan Smith, I feel like, coming from the tech industry, has brought this mentality of, it's never going to be just one person's way or the highway, which is kind of what Dennis Lindsey was rolling out there. Ryan Smith's mentality is, hey, let me put a team together of people with different diversity, different background, different perspective, like coming from different places. Let's hear all these opinions and ideas out, and then let's come together as a group and make a decision. And I think that is truly an elite way to go about it, and they're going to include Don in that process. So, yeah, I don't see Donovan Mitchell leaving anytime soon, mainly because he signed an extension, but hopefully he wins a championship inside that extension and then signs another one. That's the goal here. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how aggressive the Jazz are with this roster. I mean, it is certainly in need of upgrade, and I think Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he showed you that there was a lack of trust, and this is one of those themes that you hear about on a pretty regular basis, that there was a lack of trust with the five guys on the floor. And I think that's why we talked so much about Donovan Mitchell playing hero ball, because it was really indicative of his relationship with other guys. I think when you really get down to brass tacks, I think he trusts Joe Ingles, and I don't know that he trusts many other guys. I certainly don't believe that Donovan Mitchell enjoys giving the ball to Jordan Clarkson because Jordan Clarkson is a black hole. Like, the ball just does not come back out.
And that is why I think, and we hadn't talked about this a lot just because it is kind of reading between the lines, but if you go back and watch the games, which you can do on YouTube, you will notice that Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson rarely are on the floor at the same time together. It's extremely rare, and I think that plays into it for sure.
Well, and I also think that Quinn Snyder is one of the absolute beneficiaries of this front office change.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, like, if you look at the top to bottom guys on this roster, I wonder how many of those guys will be here. Like, I wonder about the Onis and the Forests and, the young bottom tier talent on this roster that Dennis Lindsey was so certain had to play, that I just don't think deserves to be on the floor. I mean, Trent Forrest, and I'm really not trying to be, negative, but I look at Trent Forrest and I just don't see a guy that's NBA ready. He's not ready to be part of a championship caliber roster, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with that. I do think on a bad team he would get a lot more minutes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think that's
there's
the
no doubt about
situation
that.
he needs.
I mean, if he was playing in a place like a Minnesota,
Orlando. Yeah.
If you think of the worst teams in the NBA, the Detroits, the Clevelands.
Yeah.
Guys like Oni and Forrest can go play on those teams. But, how many minutes does a guy like, Udoka Azubuike deserve on this roster? How many minutes does that is
again, though, you know what the question with him is? It's health.
It is. With this ankle injury, sure. But is Azubuike a guy that you can say, okay, he's going to replace Derek Favors? I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I mean, I don't know that that's the formula to win.
Do you think, though, with where their roster situation is at, that a guy like Azubuike needs to be ready to replace Derek Favors? Because they're so strapped with the cap and like having to move some of these major contracts that I don't really feel like they're going to be in a place to go and sign like, a backup, like to try to find a role player for that Derek Favors role. I don't know that, though. It's kind of hard to find those guys. And I kind of feel
they don't just fall off of trees.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like the question that we need to be asking, with this roster is, again, how far are you willing to fall down the Western Conference rankings to correct your money situation?
But look at what Golden State's doing.
Yeah.
There's all this, and I think this is a really important situation to watch. It is pretty clear that the Golden State Warriors are willing to give up James Wiseman in a trade with a draft pick to get Pascal Siakam. Like, that's a ballsy move. And I know that Siakam has been a disappointment the last season in Toronto. And Toronto's in a situation where they've got to remake that team.
They're kind of past the championship window.
Yeah,
now.
and I totally understand that. You're probably not bringing Kyle Lowry back. You're probably moving on from Siakam. Like, I totally understand that. But think about the aggressive nature on both sides of that deal. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you're getting Clay back, who's already on the floor, like shooting and looks really good for where he's at in a rehab. You're going to bring back Dre, Curry, and Clay.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all these other pieces, but you need to fill a hole. And Pascal Siakam is almost the perfect player to be better than Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that you're willing to give up James Wiseman and what is that, the 7th pick?
I'd have to look, but yeah, it's up there for sure.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, but I think but here's the thing. I mean, if you said, again, what are they really saying with that trade? They're really saying, hey, we're willing to give up our prized big that we drafted while we were bad because, we're a great organization. We were taking advantage of Klay Thompson's injury. So, we got a high draft pick. So we drafted Wiseman. And we're willing to give you another high draft pick so you can go and do something. And you're going to go ahead and give us a championship in Pascal Siakam because we don't need him to shoot and play the elbow jumper game. We need him to rebound the hell out of the ball and play defense. We'll go ahead and let these Hall of Fame shooters knock down all these shots. That's what they understand. Yeah. And I think that mentality, the proper word is aggressiveness. That aggressiveness is what separates the best front offices in the league from just like the mediocre or the bad ones. And so the next obvious question is, okay, well, where do the Jazz fall on the spectrum? Well, with Dennis Lindsey, I would tell you that they're one of the most conservative front offices I've ever seen. But hopefully, with the changes that Ryan Smith is making, bringing in all these different, again, perspectives, and Dwayne Wade, if, again, not saying it's going to, but if the Danny Ainge thing does actually happen, then you're going to get his perspective. I would expect this front office to get aggressive. I would expect them to offload contracts, get in a position where you can go hunting, as I call it, next free agent cycle. Not this coming one, but the next one.
Well, and I think the other part of this that you have to really consider is that, if you are able to build diversity throughout the organization, that's going to help you, because I think we've seen this narrative that, black players don't want to come to Utah and play in Salt Lake City and live in Salt Lake City. I think there's truth to that. And I think when you look at the various situations where that has been defied, whether that's Carlos Boozer or, whatever situation you want to point to, it's a rarity. And if you look at Mike Conley, he was brought here in trade. I mean, if you look at, Donovan Mitchell was brought here in a trade. Like, it's very difficult to run the way the Jazz have run for the last decade and expect to win in free agency. And I think now that's why Dwayne Wade was such an important addition to the ownership group, and his voice and player personnel is really important. He's one of the most respected veterans around the league. Certainly a guy that any prime free agent knows. When you say Dwayne Wade, he knows the championship history there. He understands the impact that Wade's had on the game, and he's well respected. And I think that having Dwayne Wade in this mix, I think bringing in, another voice into this front office, a guy like Danny Ainge, that's great. But that third piece that you're going to add to this front office, I think has to be a diverse hire. And I think that's really important. And I think if you do that, you're really sending a message. And I think Ryan Smith, since the day he took over this team, has sent the message that we are going to be diverse. We are going to be open and welcoming as an organization, and we are going to make sure that our players feel welcome, that they feel whole, that they can be themselves, and that Salt Lake City and the Utah Jazz become a destination organization for free agency. I think that's going to be very difficult to change in the short term, but I don't think there's any doubt that Ryan Smith and this entire organization are going to have a mission that is, at the center of that mission is diversity and inclusion. And I think that's what you have to do in today's NBA. And I know that it pisses a lot of people off that, you have the NBA. A lot of people use the word catered to the Black Lives Matter movement. But what other avenue would you take if you're the NBA? Your league is built on black men performing at a very high level, making millions and billions of dollars for wealthy white men. What other avenue can the NBA take there? I think Ryan Smith is showing you this is not a marketing position. You can say that that's a marketing position for the NBA, and I probably wouldn't argue with you. For Ryan Smith, it's not a marketing position. It's in his heart, and it's a way of doing business, and I think that's very good for the Utah Jazz. I really do. Let's get some comments in here. Michael Goldman says, and I want to read Michael Goldman's comment, if I can find it, because he talked about bringing in guys like KD, and that's not going to happen. You know, that's not going to happen. He says, Jazz probably don't need Conley if they get Dame, KD, and Crowder alongside Donovan, Gobert, Ingles, Clarkson, and O'Neal. I mean, that's just not a possibility.
I don't know if he was joking or being serious.
Yeah, I don't know either. Sniper Fox says, trade Gobert for P.J. Washington, Terry Rozier, and Gordon Hayward. Now we're being sarcastic. Eric and Raleigh says, to switch it up, what do you guys think about the rumor of the Warriors trading with the Raptors for Siakam? I think we just talked about that. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things that I love that move by the Warriors. I do. Michael Burton says, a couple of better players from the Clips, they would be 4-1. The only lost a couple of games because of poor plays down the stretch. The Suns are a much better team, in my opinion. They're a much more complete team, especially with all the injuries the Clippers have. The Clippers were healthy, but they're not. I think right now the Suns are just a much better team that's playing really bad basketball.
Yeah, and that's a result of them being young.
And putting Devin Booker on the ball in the fourth quarter was dumb. That was just not a well thought out play. Part of that is that we haven't seen Point Book in Monty Williams' time in Phoenix. And I think those of us that lived through the dark days of Point Book and the injuries and the turnovers and the poor shooting.
God, I'd have to Google him. But the European coach they had for one season.
I don't want to talk about it.
Dude.
I don't want to talk about it.
Holy cow.
Driftwood says Gobert isn't going to be traded. Get over the idea.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think he's going to be traded. I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell would welcome that trade. I do. There's been a lot of people asking over the last couple of days about their relationship. I think their relationship is fine. And we'll leave it at that.
Don doesn't dislike Rudy. The problem is Don wants to win at all costs.
Yes.
And he's tired of talking about, the roster limiting his ability to go and get it done. And frankly, I'm tired of talking about the roster. I'm sick and tired of talking about the roster. I'd rather be talking about the Jazz being up 3-2 on the Clippers.
Yes.
But they're not. And that's the frustrating part because
this is the conversation we've had though.
Yeah.
Right? This is, and that's why I've said for months on this show, this is not Quinn Snyder's fault. That the Rudy Gobert situation against, Man and the Clippers was not Rudy Gobert's fault. It was not Quinn Snyder's fault. I mean, there just was no other option. But having said that, Rudy Gobert had better come back to training camp with a body built and a game built to throw him the ball in the post. Because if not, I don't believe that you can play him more than 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you've got to find a new home for Derek Favors. And if it's Azubuike or whoever, you got to find a guy in the middle that you can throw the ball to who can pass. You need somebody that, and we saw Gobert do it out of the high post, those free throw line, hey, throw it to Rudy, he'll throw it to the corner. You need that.
Listen, I know that DeAndre Ayton isn't a world-beating center, right? I know that he's not the best center in the league, but I would rather have him on my team than Rudy Gobert, just being honest. And I'm not saying that Ayton's a better player. That's a different discussion. But what I am saying is for the construction and where the Jazz are at right now, Ayton is a superior option. He passes better. He's more athletic. He can do more for you.
He passes well. Very well.
I getting back to the Don Rudy, rumor mill and their relationship, again, I don't think that Donovan Mitchell, dislikes Rudy Gobert on a personal level. It's not like that, but I do think that it pisses Donovan Mitchell off to no end that he's sitting at home right now. I think he hates that.
Yeah, and I think it's very difficult to... Acceptance is a very ugly word in pro sports. When you're not where you want to be, you can never accept being anywhere but where you want to be. And if you're not upset with not meeting your bar, Whether you are, a garbage man who only picked up 100 cans instead of 101, or you are Donovan Mitchell and you're watching the Suns and the Clippers, and you're not upset about that, you're probably in the wrong business. And this goes back to Trevor Lawrence and his comments about not having to win a Super Bowl. Well, then I don't want you as my quarterback.
What are we playing for?
Right? I mean,
what are we doing?
But this is my point. I don't think that there are a million guys out there that have the championship DNA and the championship mentality. And we can rip LeBron James for losing in the finals, but that guy only cares about getting to the finals and winning. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, how many of these guys in the NBA right now can't live with the fact that they don't have a championship ring?
Damian Lillard.
If you look at guys like KD, and this is why the super team thing I think is a little short-sighted. I don't care if you did it on your own, and neither do they. Guys like Kyrie Irving want to win every single year. As much as you may hate him and his antics, as much as you might not like Kevin Durant super team hopping, why would you do anything else? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, for those guys that care about their legacies, that write their own DNA chain, if they can't input championships and not championships, they're never going to be the best guy of their generation. You can't be an alpha dog and not have a championship. It's why Reggie Miller and Charles Barkley are not on Jordan and Magic's level, because they didn't win championships. You know what I mean? Like,
it's huge. It's a big deal.
This thing with Damian Lillard in Portland, by the way, I'm 98% sure he's not coming to the Jazz. Like, the world-moving deal that would have to be, I mean, it's almost impossible. You can't even... If the Jazz and the Knicks call the Portland Trailblazers at the same time, you're not answering the Jazz phone call.
Because you don't need to.
And you're not returning it either. Because there are so many teams that are in a much better position. There are other Damian Lillards a year from now, 2 years from now, that will be in a Jazz uniform. Yeah, and I love Dame.
They're not trading him to the West either.
No,
that's the other thing.
The issue is Damian Lillard is not an upgrade in a lot of different ways.
True.
Right? Like, and I'm not trying to slight Dame whatsoever.
But it's true.
Damian Lillard wants to be a Laker. Or my guess is I think he would probably go to the Knicks. I don't know.
He wants to go to a major market and win. That's what he wants.
I think he wants to be a Laker. He's made that clear. His people have made that clear. And I'm not giving up on Donovan Mitchell ever, because this guy has a chance to be the LeBron, the Jordan, the Kobe of his generation. He's that talented.
Yes.
He's got to have better guys around him. This is Michael Jordan waiting for Pippen and Horace Grant. This is Kobe waiting for Shaq and Pau Gasol. It's LeBron waiting for D. Wade, then going back and winning with Kyrie. Like, you've got to have other pieces around you. And right now the Jazz are happy, and Jazz fans are like, oh man, Royce O'Neal, yay. And it's like, come on, bro.
Royce O'Neal.
Like, and James Knight, I love you, but Joe Ingles is not indispensable. That's a guy that does one thing really well. He's a spot-up three-point shooter. He is the idea that Joe Ingles is still an elite on-ball defender, I think went up in smoke against Paul George, frankly. And I think you're looking at, and I go back to 2014 and the arguments that we had over Derek Favors and Gordon Hayward. Don't be emotional. Don't keep Enes Kanter. You made a decision to go and get Rudy Gobert. It's time to move on from Enes Kanter. And it was funny, a couple of weeks ago, somebody retweeted, my take on from 2014 that said, hey, it's time to move on from Enes Kanter and play Rudy Gobert. Go all in on Rudy Gobert, I think it said. And all of the Jazz fans who were like, you're an idiot. You don't know this team. Go back to San Francisco. And a year later, what did the Jazz do? Moved on from Enes Kanter and went all in on Rudy Gobert. It's when you're not emotional and you're not attached to guys because, man, they've worn the note really well. Okay, that's cool, and I like Mike Conley, and I like Bojan Bogdanovic. But you know the funny thing is about players like that? Like this narrative, every player has a narrative.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if Bojan hadn't broken his wrist.
Bojan Bogdanovic.
The only problem is he did break his wrist, and no, they wouldn't have won a championship with him.
It's really unfair.
I mean, would they have gotten past the Nuggets? Maybe. I don't know. Donovan Mitchell passed the ball with the game on the line against the Nuggets, and Mike Conley missed the three. Donovan Mitchell ain't passing that ball today. He did then, though. Like, players change. Derek Favors probably doesn't have a place on this team anymore. You know, if you're looking at, if we're being real about it, there's not anybody but Donovan Mitchell that's untouchable, and I still maintain the argument we had a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know that Donovan Mitchell's untouchable. If you said, hey, we'll give you Kyrie and KD for Donovan Mitchell, okay, I'm doing that. Right? Like, everybody's got a price. So don't be emotional about it. Be Bill Belichick. Don't be emotional about guys. It is that simple. The Sniper Fox says Donovan isn't leaving anytime soon at all. If we can get the front office to listen to Mitchell, then it's possible we could get the missing pieces that we need. I think they're listening to Donovan Mitchell.
I think you're seeing it move now. I mean, it's in action.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
I mean, I don't even think that it's a question that they are listening. I think they are definitely listening, and I think again they're, as the saying goes, they're reading the room right now, and they're saying, hey, you know, we've got our Damian Lillard that's 7 years younger than where Dame is, and we don't want Donovan Mitchell at 31 years old to have, you know, made multiple postseason runs and failed every single year because we weren't good enough. So, hey, let's make some changes now while he's entering his prime. Because remember, I want everybody to remember that, right? Like, he did everything he did this year on one leg, and he's still just entering his prime. Like, there's better Donovan Mitchell to come. That's why this is such an important time.
And I'd also remind you, the two most important names that are not Donovan Mitchell are David Alexander and Chris Brickley.
I don't think many people know who David Alexander is.
David Alexander is a body guy. And he is the guy that LeBron James paid millions of dollars a year to build his body and keep him healthy. And you have Donovan Mitchell working with him. And then you look at Chris Brickley, who is not arguably anymore. I think he's just the best skills trainer in the world.
Premier, the best, no doubt.
Donovan Mitchell works with Chris Brickley. Donovan Mitchell is selling out to be the best player he can be. He needs an organization that will do the same thing, and Dennis Lindsey wasn't doing that. And I don't know, and I have all the respect in the world for the Miller family. I don't think Gail Miller was in a position to do that anymore. I think Gail Miller was a very pragmatic, intelligent woman in selling the Utah Jazz to somebody like Ryan Smith, who was never going to even consider moving them, and was a local guy that is desperate to win a championship. And so you're seeing all these sequential events happen. Follow the falling domino, man.
You can see the snowball building.
They're going to win a championship.
Yes.
The Jazz are going to win a championship. It's not going to be by trading for Damian Lillard.
I do think, though, there's a real chance that they could do it before this extension is done with Don. I
think it'll be. I think they will be in the NBA Finals in the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
It will not be this coming season. The 2 seasons after that, I think you could see this Utah Jazz team in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that is a big move. Comment dump, so I apologize if I missed a bunch of your comments. I just think that's happening. Jeremy Bolton says, I think the front office is in action. Dang it, you guys beat me to it. Yeah, absolutely. Nathan Johnson Vlog says there's a lot of moves that the Jazz could have made over the last 7-8 years that would have altered our roster drastically. Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and we've talked about that at length, but I think, again, and that conversation can always be had with any organization. I think it's, exacerbated with the Jazz because of, again, how you lost and got knocked out, and, it just kind of, you didn't go out gracefully this year.
No.
It was a crash and burn, embarrassing, fallout of a loss of a series. And, I think that, I think for Jazz fans, once this front office is solidified, once it's done, once we get closure on, is Ainge coming? Are they not going to do the Ainge thing? Who's going to be that other person they're bringing in? Once all those moves are done, I think then we have to shift the conversation from, hey, all these moves in the past are holding us back to, hey, what are we going to do about it now? Because you can't change the past, but you certainly can change your present and future. So that's what I think. I don't know. This is just my opinion. You have a lot more experience on this, but I think we're not very far away from a lot of this front office being announced. Like maybe a week or two.
No, days. Days.
You think it's days?
Oh, I think it's days because I think, as we've told you the last couple of days, the Jazz did not have a real cohesive plan for the Chicago pre-draft workouts. And I think that that's one of the most important places that business gets done. And I think that's why they had to remove Dennis Lindsey. And I think they had to fire him when they did. And I think that's why you had to make the message very clear, and that's why everybody's sourcing is, hey, Justin Zanik's our guy, because you have to have somebody to do business with if you're other NBA franchises. And I think that that's important, and I also think that's why Dwayne Wade's important. I also think that's why this ongoing conversation with Danny Ainge is important, because my guess is that Danny Ainge is already advising Ryan Smith. That's already happening. And I think that you are already moving pieces around, and I think you are now just putting pen to paper and getting deals done. And I think that in the next few days, there's going to be major announcements for the direction of this franchise. And I think those things are all really important. And I think everybody's panic button on, oh, the Jazz aren't doing anything. The Jazz aren't doing anything. Well, they were doing everything while you thought they were doing nothing, because you don't get moves made that are this important, that are this directionally different than where you were. You don't do that the day after the season ends.
Yeah.
It takes time. And as much as I disagree with Dennis Lindsey, he had been with you a decade. His henchmen had been there for 20 years more. You have to spend some time unwinding that watch. And you have to respect them because they took you to where you are. But now you need somebody else to carry the ball over the goal line.
And I thought they did a wonderful job of handling him gracefully.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think there's any doubt that Quinn Snyder releasing that statement, thanking Dennis Lindsey, I'm telling you, that was not an easy move for Quinn Snyder. And I think it was the right move. But the heat that's between those two, the differences between those two, and many people have many stories about how deteriorated their relationship was. I think that was a class move by Quinn Snyder, because he didn't have to say anything, and nobody would have asked him anything.
Nope.
So I think it is what it is. James Knight says, harsh to suggest it was an embarrassing exit from the playoffs. There were reasons beyond their control. Well, there weren't reasons beyond their control.
No, there's not. What do you mean, dude? Like, again,
with all due respect,
it's not embarrassing to the players on the floor. Like, I'm sorry, I just assumed that you understood what I meant by this. Like, it's an embarrassing loss from a roster standpoint. It's not. Again, I said like 20 minutes ago when we first talked about this. Like, it's not Rudy Gobert's fault that the Clippers were able to leverage his lack of athleticism, to their full benefit. I mean, that's not on Rudy. Nobody in the league. The Suns aren't asking DeAndre Ayton to consistently guard, Patrick Beverley in the corner. I mean, that's not happening. So I do think it's fair to say it was an embarrassing exit from the postseason, because you had your opportunities to improve this roster and you did nothing, as we've talked about so many times.
Well, what I would say is ask Donovan Mitchell if he was embarrassed.
He definitely was.
If you look at what the funny thing is, in talking to other NBA people, like, this Jazz draft narrative is well talked about. They're known as Dennis Lindsey's front office was known as a terrible drafting front office. And the fact that Devin Booker takes it personally every time he sees the Suns should tell you that. Like, it would there. Everybody was like, yeah, this is going to be Devin Booker. And it was Trey Lyles. And it's amazing to me. I just, man. Sniper Fox says, let Conley walk. We don't need him. Well,
I agree.
I think you need him. You don't need his salary. And you're in a position now where you have to, and I think this is the litmus test, as I always say. Does Ryan Smith, Dwayne Wade, Justin Zanik, maybe Danny Ainge or whoever comes in, do they realize where they are and where they want to go. Because if you realize where you are and where you're trying to go, you're going to let Mike Conley walk because you're not going to pay him. That's the pragmatic basketball move.
Yeah.
And the thing to me is all these guys coming in, Zanuck may be, but all these other guys coming in are not going to be loyal to Mike Conley.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Conley's not their guy.
And that's a huge advantage.
I think that to me is the big thing. I think when you look at the way this team has gone out the last couple of years, you can have no loyalty. That's why so many people around the league are talking about the fact the Jazz are open to trade Rudy Gobert, because I think they now realize that our sourcing on the fact that Rudy Gobert's contract was a source of great frustration on different sides of this organization is absolutely right. It's not personal to Rudy Gobert, but you don't pay that guy $205 million. You don't pay him $40 million a year when he can not contribute offensively. His contribution offensively is very limited, and it usually relies on other guys falling apart. That to me is,
which is not a formula for success.
Yeah, that to me is something that you're asking for trouble. I think it's one of those things where you just have to understand that loyalty is a killer in sports.
Yeah.
And anybody that tells you that Rudy Gobert is untouchable just is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The only guy that I would say is untouchable and will not be traded, I hate the word untouchable. The only guy on this roster that won't be traded is Donovan Mitchell. If you make the right offer for Rudy Gobert, I have a hard time believing that Ryan Smith would say no to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time believing that, because the team that wins a championship this year will not be based on a big. Just won't. You look at watch Chris Middleton tonight. Watch the wing players for the Bucks. If they win a championship, it will not be Giannis's offense that did that.
The Hawks are running John Collins at center. John Collins.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love his athleticism, but he's not a 7-footer.
They beat Philly and Joel Embiid with John Collins and a little bit of Clint Capella. But John Collins had a huge impact on that Philly series. And what's he do? He plays big and he shoots threes.
And he can dunk on you.
That, to me, that's why Rudy Gobert, he doesn't need to shoot threes. Rudy just needs to have a game around the rim.
Yeah.
That's not a dunk. He is awkward. He cannot bounce the ball and score. He's making $40 million starting this coming season. He cannot bounce the ball and score it.
Yeah, can't dribble.
That's amazing to me. That's amazing to me. What was he supposed to adjust to? Bring Ilyasova off the bench, bring Foster off the bench. Quinn had nothing to adjust to.
Agreed.
No, and Ilyasova is another. That name was brought up to me a couple of days ago. That Quinn Snyder did not want Ersan Ilyasova, and that's why it took weeks for him to see his first game action. Because one, he supposedly was not in game shape, which I understand. You've been on the sideline, okay, great. But two, he's just not a guy that bangs down low. And you needed a better version of Derek Favors. You needed a guy that could, if you're playing Rudy 30-plus minutes, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. You needed somebody.
You needed Morris from the Clippers. That guy.
That's exactly
that's the guy
right.
you need.
You needed a Marcus Morris.
Yeah, you needed that guy.
That's absolutely the truth.
There's some guy in Phoenix named Jay Crowder that you might have wanted to keep.
Lester Legizima? Quinn got out-coached. I'll put the blame on Snyder. No adjustments. Okay, again, I'm just asking you.
Yeah, you're going to have to come up more than that.
Lester, you're going to have to give me adjustments he should have made. What adjustments could Quinn Snyder, with the roster he currently has, which we now know a lot of that roster, 5-6 guys he didn't want, tell me what adjustments he could have made. Because I don't see a single adjustment where you're like, man, I can't believe Quinn Snyder didn't play this guy more. Who is it? Point that to me. Because I don't see that happening. Casey Finland says, can't wait for football season. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to it as well. Mm-hmm. And we've tried to talk about this BYU thing, by the way. Mm-hmm. The way that they recruit guys. And Casey sent us that story last night. We've tried to work that in for the last 2 days, and basketball has taken center stage. You know what I'm saying? Ramiro says, random thought, Has the internet and social media made marketability of teams more important than market size? If so, Ryan Smith is working to make the Jazz more appealing to fans. Oh, I don't know that the fans need marketability. I think players need marketability.
I think you gotta, and Ryan Smith clearly gets this whole concept and idea, but like your organization has to be welcoming to bigger name players. So like, if you're Brooklyn, you don't really have to work hard because it's Brooklyn, New York. Like it's a mecca, you know. If you're Los Angeles, you don't really have to work hard. It's history, heritage, it's LA. But in Salt Lake, you do have to work a bit harder to showcase what you have to offer, and that, yes. So I do think that kind of getting your concept and your idea and why someone will want to play for the Utah Jazz, beyond the fact that you're playing with Donovan Mitchell, I do think that is really important for sure.
Yeah, and I think that you just have, man. Oh, hey, I just kicked my dog on accident. Sorry, buddy. A lot like Nathan Johnson's vlog says, thoughts on moving Donovan Mitchell to the 1. Nah, I'm good. Donovan Mitchell is a guy that when he brings the ball up, the defense can limit him.
Here's the thing. You don't try to fix what's not broken. Donovan Mitchell is not broken. Dude,
Correct.
The guy can give you 50 in a postseason game consistently. He's shown us that. Do we want him having to do that? No, we don't. We want him to be 35 and 10. That'd be ideal, But again, the roster is the issue. We don't need point Dom. We don't need point Book. We don't need all these guys who are 2 guards playing the 1. That's not what we need.
You know what else we don't need? I don't know that we need Donovan Mitchell above the rim attacking the basket a lot.
Well, that's a Donovan Mitchell problem. He needs to correct that in his game because that's why he's getting hurt. He needs to correct that.
Donovan Mitchell, as long as he plays with that reckless abandon at the rim, will always be hobbled by something. And to me, it just isn't needed. He's got a phenomenal mid-range game.
He's a phenomenal shooter all around. He's got range. He's got mid-range. He's got the floater. He's got everything.
Yeah, I just think that, Mm-hmm. AK says the Jazz need to bring in a player like Paul Millsap. Paul was a great addition to the Nuggets. Well, at the end, but
again,
I think a player like Paul Millsap, I would agree with that. You need a power forward that can shoot the 3 and play at the rim, rebound, defend, box out. I agree with that. Paul's about 78 years old at this point. So I'm thinking, no, I'm good. His next contract's going to be with AARP, not with the NBA. I kid. I mean, Paul's just on the backside of his career. But I mean, if you look at, you need a guy who fills the Draymond Green role for Golden State.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of guy that's you just need a power forward you need Marcus Morris. You need a guy that can defend low.
And has some grit, dude. This team is soft.
Who plays mean, that's got an attitude problem, Anyway, all right, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. I want to real quick get to, before we get to Jake's love life falling apart again, I do want to get to Luka's mom. Luka Doncic is the guy that is front and center in these kind of conversations about changing rosters. You fired in Dallas. You fired Rick Carlisle. You cleaned out your front office. You hired a Nike executive and Jason Kidd. And you're going to bring in J.J. Barea and Jason Terry to be assistant coaches to Jason Kidd because Luka wants that. And now there are rumors around the NBA. Brian Windhorst of ESPN is the main guy driving this, but others have talked about this, that Luka Doncic is an unlikable figure. And it's funny because we've had this conversation on the show. I am not a Luka fan. Now, his mom, my God.
Yes.
Luka, no. Luka whines and complains constantly. And as I've said in the past, every time they lose, it's, I've got to do more. And I'm on the bench with my head down. And
let's consult the douche meter.
I'm throwing my water bottle because I'm just so upset. Oh, and by the way, I hate the Kristaps Porzingis. Fire him too. Luka Doncic is becoming a guy who is wildly unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
And now there is talk amongst agents that their players don't want to play in Dallas because of Luka Doncic.
The diva, bro.
And I have to say I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I look at the fact that guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. Are critical in demand. Like Tim Hardaway Jr. on the Utah Jazz.
Sign him.
Right now, today, I would do that. He's a guy that's going to be in demand. He shoots at an elite level. He defends really well.
And he's athletic.
And everybody wants him. And the question is, does he want to play with Luka Doncic anymore? And if he doesn't, he's going to walk away from that team. And you're going to see with their offseason moves, what do they do with Kristaps Porzingis? What do they do with Tim Hardaway Jr.? How much over the cap are they, or how much over the offer and his level of salary will they have to go to keep Tim Hardaway Jr. on the team?
Yeah.
Because that's what's probably going to happen. Because there are a few guys around this league that say they want to play in Dallas with Luka Doncic. It's just something to watch. Because I think Kawhi Leonard is another one that's really interesting in this light. How many guys actually want to play with Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough to say. The difference between the two, obviously, is Kawhi's one, so, like, he can say that.
But if you're Paul George, and again, I'm not a huge Paul George guy, but you know what I've seen? Paul George has gotten better since Kawhi got hurt.
Thriving.
And, by the way, the Clippers are playing pretty good basketball without Kawhi Leonard right now. Now, some of that is that the Suns are just not being very intelligent. But this Clippers team, if they lose Paul George or if they lose Kawhi Leonard this offseason, I just don't think it's the end of the world. And it's an interesting look at what Kawhi Leonard is. Great defender, Defensive Player of the Year candidate every year, excellent mid-range guy, excellent shooter. He's a personality problem in your locker room. So when you're talking about these free agents, and you're talking about guys that you go out and get, is a guy like a Luka Doncic a guy you want on your roster?
I mean, I think it depends, where your roster's at. I mean, for the Jazz, no, of course not. I mean, that's just not going to be a realistic scenario. But, you look around the league and you take a look at, again, like, let's take the Knicks as an example. Would the Knicks pair, Luka and Julius? Yeah, probably, potentially. I mean, there's conversations to be had there, So I just think that I think that Luka. The thing you have to understand about Luka is he's been the best player on his team for as long as he's been on planet Earth. So like the guy thinks that he is the best of the best and nobody's better than him, and like he's that kind of guy.
I got a Jordan contract.
Yeah, like he's that kind of guy. And so, again, I just think that, Luka wants all the calls from the officials, and he wants his teammates to give him the ball, and he wants to play hero ball, and he doesn't want to use Porzingis the right way. So his relationship with Porzingis breaks down, and then Tim Hardaway doesn't get the ball enough. And it's just this whole thing, it's a whole domino effect because Luka thinks that he is, the god of basketball, and that's just not how you win championships in this league.
That's not the way to go about this, Karen.
Yeah, and I just think that, there's only one guy who can really say that they can get on the team and you're going to go to the finals, and that's LeBron James.
And I think when you look at the way that Luka's gone about some things, he's a problem. Eric De Vera says, Monty, would you agree getting Hardaway and Luka's mom to Utah? My God. Luka's mom in Utah? Hello.
I want more.
I want more of Luka's mom. The problem is Luka probably comes with her, so I'm not a guy that would put Luka on my roster. He's a great player. He makes a lot of great shots and difficult shots, and he's improving, but
he's beatable.
Yeah. Yes, he is absolutely beatable. Nathan Johnson Vlog says the Jazz don't need a Kawhi personality here. They need the opposite of that. Marcus Morris will never come to Utah, Ryan Buckley says. Well, I don't know that any of us are advocating for Marcus Morris. You need that type of player, that skill set, that size.
Yes.
The problem is that's very difficult to find.
Yeah, and I think
frankly.
This team, overall the Jazz, we always wind up talking about Rudy and his shortcomings and how that affects the team, but overall, this team also needs to get tougher. They need to be more.
Yes.
They need more grit on this team, dude. Like Like, again, I know that this is kind of a stigma, but Rudy's French, and he's soft, man.
Now
That's
listen,
just what it is.
Listen, we're 1 minute away from a shoe release.
Oh, God, here we go. What is it this time?
It is
what can I lose on this day?
It is the I can't remember what it's called, but essentially it's in the Nike app, and it's the Ace of Spades shoe.
Oh.
With the king and the ace, and it's a beautiful shoe.
Yeah.
It's an Air Jordan 1 Low SC, so it's priced well. And this is the one shoe I need to add to my collection. I need more Jordan 1 Lows. Well, I need more Jordan 1 Lows like a hole in the head. I need more Jordan Lows. But here nor there. There's a Marcus Morris out there the Jazz can get. I don't know who exactly, but they need to find some toughness. They do.
Yes, they do.
Monty, do you think Favors needs to go? Lester Legizima says. I think Derek Favors, you need to improve that spot.
Yes.
I love what Derek Favors has done for this team. I love the attitude that he brings. I just wish that he was somebody that, that you... How do I'm trying to say it.
It's a loyalty contract. Hey, you played with us here before. You're not going to get to sign anywhere else. We'll go ahead and give you a year because you're going to give us 15 minutes a night and you're going to work your ass off. And you're not going to complain when we don't play you for 3 games at a time.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's what that is, man. And much like you losing this sneaker draw, Derek Favors, he's at the end of his line, man. And I just think that, listen, the more we talk about this roster, the more I start to say, you know what, there's holes all over the thing. You know what, there's holes all over this roster. And those holes, what they look like is a couple of different things. Number 1, toughness. Number 2, a lack of athleticism. And then number 3, a lack of cohesiveness across the starting five.
Wait. You got to stop.
Why? What's wrong?
Because I think I've identified Jamie SS Sniper Fox.
Oh, God.
He's hot take guy who only says things in the comments to piss people off.
Okay, here we go.
Because now he says Zion is greater than Mitchell.
Get the hell out of here, dude. Get the hell out of here, man.
That makes my head hurt.
Go listen to Undisputed or go. Just go on, dude. Like you have that. Like saying that you don't have credibility. Come on, man.
Come on. Just stop. No, I meant have Mitchell and Zion play together. No. Why are you gonna go and you're gonna go and get a Zion Williamson and bring him to Utah?
You're gonna trade.
Come on.
Wait. So let me get this right. You're going to get rid of an extremely limited player in Rudy Gobert, who's the defensive player of the year, to go and get a guy in Zion who's also extremely limited and not the defensive player of the year. That makes no sense.
Zion Williamson is a poor man's Giannis Antetokounmpo who can't defend.
Exactly.
And can't shoot. And Giannis is actually making free throws now to the point where you can't hack a Giannis anymore. Like, it's just, I just hate that idea. I've
never been a Zion guy. He's been all hype and no game. He needs to prove it now.
Yeah, I just, whatever. It is what it is.
Even pre-draft, right. I said I wanted Ja over Zion.
Can we spend some time talking about your love life, please?
Oh, you mean that waste of time? Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I look at, now there's a whole thing about who is Jamie SS Sniper Fox. And she says, I'm not a guy, I'm a female.
Okay.
Well, hey, either way.
That doesn't really matter to me. I don't really care. That take is trash.
Hot take. That's awful. Hot take Tina or hot take Tommy. It doesn't matter to me. You know? Yes! Who is your daddy, boy? Got him!
There you go, dude.
Yeah,
Congrats.
baby. Anyway. All right, I feel like more of a man.
Yeah, you got to win now. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now I have to tell my wife I bought more shoes.
That'll go over well.
Can I stay at your place? Let's talk about your love life. Yeah. I can stay at your place because you ain't got no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Luca's mom ain't coming through that door anytime
exactly.
soon. Stop.
If you felt these balls.
No.
Ja Morant is way better than Zion Williamson. Stop. I'm just not. No. Okay. Y'all tripping, calling me a guy. LMAO. You're all funny. Well, who would have any idea you're not a guy?
Yeah, how would we know?
It's an assumption. Anyway, We're terrible people.
We get it.
Speaking of which,
We get it.
you're a terrible person. Why did she dump you this time? Oh, I
Okay.
mean, why are you not moving forward?
Bro, why you gotta
with
hate
those?
like that? Hey, you gotta win too. There you go.
That a
Okay, cool.
boy.
All right, cool.
Matching in them
Sweet. All right.
shoes, yo.
No, man, just another classic example of getting my time wasted. Money spent, miles on the student flow.
Because there's a bunch of new people here.
Yeah.
Jake has always been single. He always going to be single.
I hit dingers.
He is not planting gardens. He is not putting seed in anybody's garden or driving his car into anybody's driveway or their garage. He's just not the procuratorial type.
That's quite enough. We get it.
Okay. Now that we've established that. By the way, Jamie, are you single? Jake is single.
Right,
You know.
right. Yeah.
I mean, your basketball IQs are about the same.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, so what happened this time?
No, we went on a couple of dates, 2 dates, and then, I just literally, like, out of the blue, get a text about how I'm some amazing person, but I just sound too busy, and she needs more time during the week. And she was like, so I wish you the best of luck. And
Wow.
And I was like, okay, like, I mean, I guess I get it. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, I am busy, so, it is what it is. But, I was just kind of surprised that because the dates I felt like went really good. You know how you could, like, tell, sometimes, like, the dates are just sort of, like, bland, but other times, like, they go really well. Like, they had gone pretty good, I felt like, as compared to some of the other ones that I had gone on, and so, like, she just texted me out of the blue and was like, hey, like, I just don't think that you have enough time, and I need someone who's at my house all the time and, like, able to spend time with me during the week, and yeah. So it was just like, I was just like, dude, like, this is exactly why I call it literally a waste of time, because people just have unrealistic expectations. And when I told you on the first date that I was busy, and you were like, oh, that's fine too, because I'm busy, and like, she does mortgages and I do sales, like, we've even texted about, like, grinding on the sales life and, having good days and bad days and stuff, like, so it was going good. And then all of a sudden it just comes to a stop. And that's why I say, once again, it's a waste of time.
Eric DeVera.
Yeah.
Karma. Jake got busted through text.
Sure. I mean, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's cool.
The difference is Jake broke up with somebody he was in a long-term live-in relationship with over text.
Yeah, I'm an asshole. I get it. It's fine. It's fine.
Exactly
it's
right.
Fine.
Jake should find, Giggity says, might be time for Jake to consider finding Jesus. Make that conversion. Open up the field in Utah. DeVera also says you should date Rudy Gobert because he's soft. Don't want to know about his softness.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
man. Brandon Whiteside says Jake got revenge text dumped.
Yeah. There you go.
Jordan Crabtree says you don't need those uber clingy needy girls, Jake. You dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, whatever.
I
dude.
would kind of agree with that.
Yeah, look, I and to be clear, it's not like I never get frustrated or annoyed that, like, it actually happened. What annoys me is just, again, the waste of time.
Yes.
Right? Like, I could have easily Friday night done absolutely nothing and slept for like 10 hours, but instead I was out for like 4 hours that evening, driving around and buying food for somebody that I was never going to meet again. So it's just like, it's like, man, like, again, waste of time.
Brandon Whiteside says Jake shouldn't use the word grinding unless it's grinding the mattress. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so how are you feeling about your dating life?
It's a joke right now. It's a joke. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who's consistent. It's hard to, really meet anybody. Like,
The problem is you've struggled, in my opinion, to find maturity, stability, and somebody who respects the grind.
Yeah, man.
Because at your age, there's a lot of women that are in the bars, that are out at night, that are, like you more value sleep than another martini.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, but that's what happens when you're up from 4:45 to 10 o'clock at night. I mean, you don't have, time. You don't have Like, you don't have time to be wasting on somebody, out at a bar. And yeah, I don't have, the ability to miss Suns games or Jazz games or any of that, you know?
Jamie SS Sniper Fox says, I'm not really looking for a relationship, mostly because men waste my time. So
yeah, listen, I'm with you.
Hey.
I'm 100% with you.
Oh, wait,
on that.
you and Jamie are with each other?
No, that's not. No, I didn't say that.
Oh, this is Jamie from the Progressive commercials.
God bless.
It's not. Jamie, we appreciate you being here. Jake's phone number is no,
Don't.
I'm kidding.
Don't.
I think that in your situation it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you do have to, it takes time, it takes money, and you value the funny thing is the more you spend time alone, the more you begin to value it.
That's the truth.
When you get time alone and it's quiet, you're like, God damn.
That's nice.
When you lay your head down on the pillow and you've closed the blackout curtains and you're laying on your beautiful king-size bed.
Yes. That bed doesn't waste my time.
And, well, no, but, when it's just you in the darkness.
Yeah, it's great.
There is some freedom involved in that.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah.
When you're not arguing over who left the cap off the toothpaste, there's value in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you find the right woman, that's all you care about.
Yeah.
Once you find the person that you want to be with, and then when you're alone, you're like, damn, like, I miss that person, or so it's interesting that now you enjoy that freedom, but then when you meet that person who changes your heart, now all of a sudden you don't value that freedom. You're like, man, like there's a hole here. There's a gap.
Yeah, and I just have zero confidence right now that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of how it works, right? Like, you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, DeVera's got all the jokes today. He says Monty should date Luca's mom and Jake date
Hello.
And Jake should date Luca's grandma.
Okay.
Are you into older women?
Not particularly.
It is what it is. Jamie Sniper Fox says, I appreciate you guys having me here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Where are you, Jamie? Where do you live? Like, are you European? Are you American?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Salt Lake City is just, I love living here, but man, the finding people who aren't on that LDS life is difficult.
Yeah, is it? So do you see a lot of that on Grindr?
Okay, I'm not on Grindr.
I actually didn't even say that on purpose. That was a Freudian slip. Is there a lot of that on Hinge?
Yeah, you can display what your religious beliefs are.
And do you see a lot of LDS?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you just keep on swiping.
Keep on swiping.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey.
I ain't about to be a convert,
So are you on a break, or are you going to?
Oh no, I'll you know me. I'll keep my dating hobby, as I'm going to call it now, because that's what it is.
Okay.
Sniper
Fox says you guys should take phone calls on your show.
Did we get an answer on like where Sniper Fox is?
Yeah, Sniper Fox. Where are you?
Yeah.
And everybody, by the way, follow us on Insta and Twitter.
My Insta, I'm a much better follow on Insta than Twitter, admittedly.
Yeah, you're a terrible follow.
Yeah.
Fat Jesus, good morning, says, Jake, a woman in her late 70s is the perfect short-term relationship. Yeah, they die soon and they leave you a bunch of money.
He's an assassin.
Jesus is giving you advice. You
hey,
should probably
it's
take
Joseph.
it. Joseph, excuse me, is giving you, no, you aren't. Jamie is in Salt Lake City. I don't buy that for a second.
I don't buy
no
that.
Chance. All right, play the music. You can follow Jake on Instagram or Twitter, SLC Supercars. By the way, big upgrades on the Subi.
Yeah, did some lights, did some brakes,
Slotted brake rotors on the Subi.
Yeah, Subi doesn't waste my time, so,
Mustang headlights.
They're not Mustang headlights. They're not Mustang headlights.
I'm kidding, they're not. They're not. All right, we got to roll. Jake needs to chase those LDS girls to wild out after his suppressed childhood, or after their suppressed childhood.
Yeah, maybe that's who I could be.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I could be.
Work out their frustrations in your nice little king bed, and then have them hit the door.
Yeah, hit the road, Jake.
See ya, Jane. Or Chrisley. Anyway, Chrisley. That's a Utah name, right?
Sure.
Brittany Lee. Anyway, all right, we're out. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. You can follow Jake, SLC Supercars. Until tomorrow, say we're on that Grindr life.
We're on that Grindr life, Jake.